Imagine you are drowning not in water, but in information. You possess everything you were promised would bring completion, security, distraction, infinite connectivity, yet you wake every morning with a hollow ache in your chest that no success can fill and no algorithm can predict. You are the most technologically advanced human in history, yet you have never felt more isolated, more adrift in a cosmos that seems indifferent to your existence. This is not a defect in your brain chemistry. It is the primal scream of a starving soul in a world that has forgotten how to feed it. Stop scrolling. Listen closely to the silence beneath the noise. Your life depends on understanding what that silence is trying to tell you. We begin here, in the sterile neon glare of the modern condition. We must begin with the diagnosis, because the prescription you have been given by society is not only failing to cure you, it is the very source of the poison. Look around you. Look within you. There is a pervasive, low-level fever burning through the collective psyche of our time. We give it many clinical names: anxiety, chronic depression, burnout, existential dread, an insatiable addiction to distraction. We treat these as malfunctions, inconvenient glitches in the human machine that must be medicated, managed or efficiently ignored so that productivity may continue. We are told that the meaning of life is a riddle to be solved with more logic, more achievement, or perhaps just more dopamine. But Carl Jung offers a radically different and far more terrifying perspective. He suggests that your anxiety is not a disease to be eradicated. It is a symptom of supreme health trying to assert itself in an unhealthy world. It is a sacred protest. The feeling that your life lacks meaning is not a failure of your intellect. It is the accurate perception of your soul realizing it is suffocating in a vacuum. We are living in the aftermath of a great spiritual catastrophe, one so total that we have forgotten it ever occurred. We live in what Jung called a desymbolized world. For millennia, humanity lived within a living myth. The rising sun was not merely astrophysics, it was the resurrection of a deity. The thunder was not just meteorology, it was the voice of judgment. Every act, from eating to warring to loving, was imbued with transcendent significance because it connected the individual to a cosmic drama. We knew our place, however small, in the great chain of being. Then came the necessary but devastating rise of rationalism and materialism. We shone the cold light of intellect into the dark corners of the world. We exorcised the spirits from the forests, we pulled the gods down from the mountains, and we dissected the mysteries until they were nothing but dead matter and mathematical probabilities. We cleansed the world of superstition, but in doing so, we also cleansed it of meaning. We created a hygienic, efficient, and utterly disenchanted cage. Now, the modern human stands as a sophisticated ghost wandering through this sterilized landscape. We are wealthy in facts, but bankrupt in significance. We have traded the terrifying majesty of the unknown for the banal comfort of certainty. And the price we paid was our vitality. The meaning of life is no longer a felt experience of participation in a sacred reality. It has become an intellectual concept, a dry philosophical problem debated by minds entirely cut off from their own roots. This is the source of the fever. You are trying to live a human life without the necessary sustenance of myth. You are a character who has been handed a script with no plot, placed on a stage with no audience, and told to improvise a purpose. The boredom that plagues the modern soul is not mere lethargy. It is a desperate defense mechanism against the terrifying realization of this emptiness. If you were to truly stop and face the void of a demythologized life, the despair might consume you. So you stay busy. You chase the next promotion, the next relationship, the next digital notification, running on a treadmill suspended over an abyss. But where did they go? This is the crucial question Jung forces us to ask. When we banished the gods and the myths from our cathedrals and our universities, did they simply evaporate? Does energy just disappear? No. This is the great hidden dynamic of your psyche. What is repressed does not die. It merely goes underground. It becomes archaic, concentrated, and dangerous. When the gods were evicted from the conscious world, they did not leave town. They moved into the basement of the human house. They took up residence in the unconscious. The great tragedy and the great irony of our age is that we have not stopped worshipping. We have only begun to worship unconsciously and therefore grotesquely. The religious instinct is an inherent part of the human structure. Deprived of a worthy, conscious object of veneration, that potent energy attaches itself to unworthy, secular objects. Look at how we relate to the state, to political ideologies, to celebrities, to science, or even to our own physical health. We do not just engage with them, we relate to them with religious fervor, with fanaticism, with a desperate need for them to save us. We offer sacrifices of our time, our dignity, and our individuality to these new, hollow idols. The ancient god of war is not dead. He is now your uncontrollable rage in traffic or your polarized political hatred. The goddess of love is not dead. She is your devastating, obsessive projection onto a romantic partner you barely know, demanding they provide the completion that only the divine can offer. The gods have become diseases. Olympus has become the asylum. Therefore, the search for the meaning of life is not a forward journey into new intellectual territory. It is a rescue mission. It is a retrieval operation. The meaning you seek is not out there in the future. It is trapped down here in the dark, twisted into the shape of your own suffering. This brings us to the confrontation with the exiled divine. Jung understood that the ego, that small lit room of your conscious awareness, the you that you think you are, is not the master of your house. It is merely the caretaker. There is another, far greater authority residing within the total psyche. Jung called this the self. The self is the archetype of wholeness, the ordering principle of your entire being. It is the image of God imprinted within the human soul. While the ego is obsessed with survival, status, and comfort, the self is obsessed with meaning, with the complete unfolding of your unique potential, regardless of the cost to your comfort. In a life lived purely on the surface, commanded by the demands of the persona, your social mask, and the rational world, the ego loses contact with the self. You become separated from your own center of gravity. You are like a planet that has forgotten its sun. You drift into the cold, dark expanse of meaninglessness. But the self will not allow you to drift forever. It wants to be realized. It demands to be lived. And if the ego refuses to listen to its gentle whispers in dreams or intuition, the self will raise its voice. It will turn against the ego. It will manifest as the fever. Your anxiety, your sense of futility, that inexplicable sabotage that ruins your meticulously planned life just when things are going well. This is not bad luck. This is the self pulling the emergency brake. It is the forgotten God within you orchestrating a crisis to shatter the rigid shell of your persona. It must break the life that is wrong for you to create space for the life that is true. To the ego, this feels like a catastrophe. It feels like death. And indeed, it is a death. The death of the illusion of control, the death of the false, superficial identity. But to the soul, it is an intervention of grace. Consider the energy you expend trying to maintain the facade of a normal, meaningful life in this wasteland. The sheer exhaustion of repressing your deeper nature, of pretending that the shallow waters of consumerism and social validation are enough to quench your thirst. That exhaustion is a signpost. It is telling you that you are operating against the current of your own being. You are using your life force to build a dam against your own soul. The meaning of life, therefore, is not an idea you find and put in your pocket. It is a vibrant, dangerous connection intended to exist between the ego and the self. Meaning is what is experienced when the ego acknowledges its subordinate position and begins to serve the greater totality of the psyche. It is the electrification of the mundane when it becomes a vessel for the mythic. But we are terrified of this reconnection. We are terrified because the self does not care about our civilizational niceties. It does not care about your 5-year plan or your reputation. It contains both the highest light and the deepest darkness of your nature. To open the door to the self is to open the door to the raw, unfiltered power of life itself. It is to admit that we are not alone in our own minds. And so, we choose the fever. We choose the known misery of the meaningless routine over the terrifying uncertainty of the living adventure. We medicate the messenger so we don't have to read the message. We stay on the surface, watching the shadows of the great archetypes move beneath the ice, knowing that if we break the surface, we might drown, but also knowing that if we stay above, we will surely freeze to death. The first step toward meaning is to stop running from the lack of it. You must turn around and face the wasteland you inhabit. You must allow yourself to feel the full weight of the exile, the grief of the forgotten gods. You must realize that your dissatisfaction is the most precious thing you possess, for it is the only thing telling you the truth. It is the golden thread leading you into the labyrinth. You are not sick, you are uninitiated. You are standing at the threshold of a journey that humanity has forgotten how to take. The superficial world has given you all it can, and it has left you starving. The answers are no longer in the light. The cure for this fever is not found in the light of day, but in the darkness you have spent your life avoiding. The gods are waiting in the shadows, twisted by their long exile, holding the chaotic raw materials of your future meaning. Comment: I hear the call. If you are ready to stop running and face the depths, subscribe, for the descent begins now, and we will need more than logic to survive what comes next. You have answered the call. You have turned your back on the sterile, sun-bleached world of the surface and taken the first step into the descending darkness. Here, in the twilight of the inner world, the maps of the rational mind are useless. The language of logic becomes a foreign tongue. You have entered a realm that operates not on principles of cause and effect, but on principles of resonance, symbol, and story. You have come seeking meaning, but what you will find is not an answer. You will find an architecture. You are standing in the antechamber of the oracle. The ancients understood this. They knew that the psyche was not a silent repository of memories, but a living, breathing intelligence that speaks constantly. The tragedy of our time is not that this oracle has fallen silent, but that we have forgotten how to listen. Its voice is drowned out by the ceaseless monologue of the ego and the cacophony of the external world. To construct a life of significance, you must first become a student of its cryptic dialects. There are two primary channels through which this deep intelligence communicates its will, writing the blueprint of your personal myth upon the canvas of your life. The first dialect is called synchronicity. This is perhaps the most misunderstood and trivialized of Jung's great insights. It is not wishful thinking. It is not the universe rearranging itself to give you a parking space. It is the eruption of the objective psyche into the material world. It is the shocking, irrefutable proof that the inner and outer worlds are not separate, but are two aspects of a single unified reality, bound by meaning. Synchronicity is a causal connecting principle. It is when an event in the external world coincides meaningfully with a thought, a dream, or a psychological state within you, with no apparent causal link. It is the book that falls off the shelf, open to the precise passage that addresses the question tormenting your soul. It is the stranger on a bus whose overheard conversation provides the key to a problem you have wrestled with for months. It is the sudden, recurring appearance of a specific animal, a hawk, a spider, a wolf, in moments of profound decision or transition. The rational ego dismisses these events as mere coincidence, a statistical anomaly. To do so is to remain blind and deaf. The soul, however, recognizes its own language. These are not random occurrences. They are breadcrumbs of significance left by the self to guide you along your unique path. They are the universe winking at you, confirming that your inner work is having an effect on the fabric of reality itself. When you begin to pay attention, you will realize that your life is not a series of random events. It is a symphony. Most are deaf to the music, hearing only noise. But when you learn to listen, you can begin to discern the melody. Synchronicity is the self telling you, you are getting warmer, or you have strayed from the path. Look here. It is the external validation that your descent into the personal is, in fact, a participation in the universal. But while synchronicity provides the external signposts, it does not reveal the destination. For that, we must learn the second dialect of the oracle, a language spoken not by the world outside, but from the epicenter of our own private pain. We must learn to read the meaning of our dominant complex. Within every psyche, there is a knot in the smooth fabric of the self. It is your greatest wound, your most persistent and irrational fear, your deepest source of shame, your most compulsive self-sabotaging pattern. The modern approach is to view this complex as a pathology to be eliminated, a bug in the system to be patched, a demon to be exorcised. This is a profound and tragic error. From the Jungian perspective, your dominant complex is not your problem, it is your portal. It is the dragon that guards the very treasure you are seeking. Where your psychic energy is most densely and painfully concentrated, that is the precise location of your life's central task. The ego builds its entire defensive structure around this wound, spending immense life force to deny it, repress it, and project it onto others. But the self placed it there for a reason. It is not a mistake. It is a homing beacon. Consider the mythic pattern. The hero's power is always inextricably linked to his wound. His vulnerability is the source of his ultimate strength. Your complex operates in the same way. The thing you are most terrified of others discovering about you is the very key to your authenticity. The pattern of behavior that brings you the most shame contains the seed of your greatest potential gift to the world. Are you plagued by a feeling of powerlessness? The complex is guarding your dormant capacity for true sovereignty. Are you haunted by a sense of not belonging? The complex is the gateway to your unique, inimitable place in the cosmos. Are you crippled by a fear of chaos and disorder? The complex guards your latent ability to create new worlds. To engage with this is to stop running. It is to turn and face the dragon. The task is not to slay it in a fit of egoic violence, but to ask it a question. What treasure are you guarding? What part of myself have I abandoned in my fear of you? This is the beginning of all true inner work. It is the alchemical process of approaching the lead of your suffering, not as waste to be disposed of, but as the prima materia, the essential raw material from which gold can be made. These two dialects work in concert. Your dominant complex is the internal compass needle, trembling and pointing insistently toward the site of your hidden treasure. Synchronicity is the feedback from the external world, the rustling in the trees and the alignment of the stars, confirming that you are moving in the right direction. When you follow the agonizing pull of your wound with courage, the world will conspire to meet you halfway, placing the right people, the right symbols, and the right challenges in your path. This is the architecture of your personal myth beginning to take form. This leads us to the final and most profound layer of this architecture, discovering your archetypal function. We think of archetypes, the hero, the sage, the trickster, the great mother, as characters in a story. This is only a surface understanding. On a deeper level, archetypes are not characters. They are primordial patterns of energy. They are the fundamental laws of the psychic universe, the cosmic roles that must be played in the great drama of consciousness. The meaning of your life is not found by picking an archetype from a list that you find appealing. It is discovered by realizing which archetypal function life is demanding that you embody now, often through the gateway of your dominant complex. The purpose of your existence is not a static identity, but a dynamic role. Your life is not a noun, it is a verb. The hero is not simply a person who slays monsters. It is the cosmic function of courageously confronting the unknown and dismantling obsolete structures, whether in the world or in oneself. The sage is not just a wise old man. It is the function of perceiving the hidden pattern within the chaos, of bringing clarity and understanding to bewildering experience. The trickster is not a mere fool. It is the sacred function of breaking taboos, shattering ego inflation, and opening the way for new life by mocking that which has grown too rigid and self-important. Your wound, your complex, is a calling card from one of these great powers. It is an invitation to step out of your small personal biography and into a vast, impersonal, and mythic role. To find your meaning is to answer the question, what is my function in this cosmic drama? Am I here to build, the ruler, to heal, the caregiver, to innovate, the creator, to liberate, the outlaw? The answer is not chosen by the ego. It is revealed through the difficult work of integrating your complex and heeding the signs of synchronicity. When you align your personal will with this transpersonal archetypal function, your life ceases to be a frantic search for meaning. Your life becomes an act of meaning, Every choice, every action, every sacrifice is imbued with a significance that transcends your personal comfort or success. You become a vessel through which a primordial energy of the universe can express itself. You now possess the navigational tools. You understand the language of the oracle, the external signs of synchronicity, and the internal pull of your sacred wound. You understand that the goal is not to find an answer, but to discover and embody a cosmic function. You have the blueprint of the architecture, but a blueprint is not a cathedral. To build it, you must enter the crucible. You must face the part of the journey where knowledge is not enough, where you must sacrifice the very thing you hold most dear, the illusion that you are in control. The next stage demands not intellect, but immense courage. It demands that you willingly burn away the person you thought you were to make way for the person you were always meant to be. You hold the blueprints. The oracle has spoken through the tremor of your deepest wound and the resonant hum of synchronicity. You have glimpsed the archetypal function your soul is being called to embody. You possess the knowledge, but this is the most seductive and dangerous moment in the entire journey. For knowledge, held only in the intellect, is a powerless abstraction. It is a map of a foreign land that you have never visited. The ego, the reigning monarch of your conscious mind, is content with this. It can categorize the concepts, file them away, and feel a sense of accomplishment without ever having risked anything. It can talk endlessly about the descent, but it will do everything in its power to avoid taking a single step down. Now, the true ordeal begins. It is a phase that cannot be thought through, only lived through. You must step out of the library of the mind and into the perilous inner laboratory. You must enter the crucible. This is the art of psychic alchemy, a process so ancient and so powerful that our modern world has dismissed it as mere superstition, precisely because it threatens the supremacy of the rational ego. The first and most terrifying requirement of this sacred chemistry is the voluntary sacrifice of the king. The ego must willingly descend from its throne. This is not an act of self-destruction, but an act of profound humility. It is the admission that its logical, linear, and controlling approach to life is the very thing that has created the barren wasteland you now inhabit. The vigilant captain who has steered your ship through the known waters of the world must now acknowledge that he is entering a sea for which there are no charts, and he must surrender the helm to a deeper, unseen current. This feels like madness. It feels like courting disaster. Every survival instinct you possess will scream in protest. The ego will argue, bargain, and rationalize. It will tell you that to let go of control is to be annihilated, and in a sense, it is correct. What will be annihilated is the false self, the carefully constructed persona, the rigid identity built on a foundation of fear and societal expectation. This is the necessary death that precedes any genuine rebirth. The alchemical vessel for this transformation is your own focused, unwavering attention. It is the commitment to create a hermetically sealed space within your own life, a space free from the constant intrusion of external distraction and the ego's endless internal chatter. It is here in this sacred container that you will place the raw material for your great work, the prima materia. And what is this primal substance? It is everything you have deemed worthless. It is the psychic sludge you have spent a lifetime disowning and projecting onto others. It is the leaden weight of your personal history, your shame, your failures, your secret griefs, your unexpressed rage. It is the entirety of your shadow. The work of alchemy is not to get rid of this darkness, but to recognize it as the sole source of the gold you seek. Without this despised, chaotic, and volatile material, no transformation is possible. The process begins with the nigredo, the blackening. This is the decomposition. You must allow the false structures of your personality to putrefy. This means turning toward the dragon of your dominant complex, not with a sword, but with an open heart. You must sit in the fire of the feelings you have always run from. Feel the full, undiluted agony of your inadequacy. Experience the white-hot fury of your repressed anger. Taste the bitter poison of your envy. You must do this without judgment, without explanation, and most importantly, without action. You do not feed the rage by lashing out. You do not soothe the pain with an addiction. You simply endure its presence. You provide the heat of conscious awareness, and you watch as the hard, rigid structures of your defenses begin to melt and break down. This is the dark night of the soul. It is a period of confusion, despair, and profound disorientation. The old certainties are gone, but the new reality has not yet been born. You are suspended in the void. It is here that most people turn back, fleeing to the familiar prison of their old life. To continue requires a faith that is not religious but psychological, a trust in the wisdom of the process, a belief that this dissolution is not an end, but a necessary purification. From this black chaos, if you hold your nerve, the second stage emerges, the albedo, the whitening. After confronting the darkness within yourself, you begin to see the world with shocking clarity. The primary mechanism of this stage is the withdrawal of your projections. You begin to realize, with a sense of horrifying and liberating lucidity, that the world has been a mirror. The monstrous villain you saw in your boss was a reflection of your own disowned ambition. The infuriating incompetence you saw in a loved one was the mirror of your own unlived potential. The saints and saviors you worshipped from afar were carriers of your own unclaimed nobility. As you painstakingly reel in these psychic hooks one by one, the world is washed clean. It is no longer populated by demons and angels of your own making. People and situations reveal themselves as they truly are, stripped of the emotional charge you had draped upon them. And as you cease to fight the shadows on the wall, you reclaim a staggering amount of psychic energy that was previously wasted on external battles. This reclaimed life force is the energy that will fuel the final stages of the transformation. You become psychologically sovereign. The strings that made you a puppet are cut, not because the puppet master was defeated, but because you realize you were holding the strings all along. Finally, the fire of conscious suffering and the clarity of self-knowledge bring about the rubido, the reddening. This is the culmination of the work. It is the union of opposites. It is the alchemical wedding of the conscious and the unconscious, of the ego and the shadow, of the masculine and the feminine principles within your own soul. The lead of your suffering has not vanished. It has been transmuted into the gold of consciousness. The chaotic energy of the complex is not destroyed. It is harnessed, becoming a source of immense power and creativity. The reward for this harrowing ordeal is not happiness. Happiness is a fleeting emotional state dependent on external conditions. The reward is far more substantial and enduring. It is wholeness. It is the creation of an indestructible inner core, a center of gravity that is not swayed by the praise or condemnation of the world. You develop the capacity to contain paradox, to be both gentle and fierce, to be vulnerable yet invincible, to be deeply compassionate yet hold unshakable boundaries. You no longer live a life of reaction, thrown about by the winds of circumstance. You live from a place of deep, integrated purpose. The price of refusing this journey is a life of ghosts. It is a half-lived existence, haunted by the specter of the person you could have become. It is to remain a prisoner of your own unconscious patterns, endlessly repeating the same mistakes, attracting the same painful relationships, and feeling a pervasive sense of being a victim of fate. In contrast, the fruit of this alchemical labor is the lapis philosophorum, the philosopher's stone. This is not a physical object but a state of being. It is the attainment of the integrated self, a consciousness that can turn any experience, no matter how base or painful, into an opportunity for greater meaning and awareness. You have walked through the fire, you have sacrificed the illusion of control, and allowed your false self to be dissolved in the crucible of introspection. You have reclaimed the lost and rejected parts of your soul and forged them into a new, unified whole. You are no longer just a map reader. You have become the territory. You have not found an answer. You have become a living substance of a different quality. The question that remains is, what happens when this newfound wholeness, this inner gold, is brought back into the ordinary world? You have walked through the refining fire and survived the dissolution. You have gathered the scattered and despised fragments of your being and forged them into a new, indivisible substance in the crucible of your soul. Now, before we reveal the final consequence of this great work, the purpose for which the gold was made. Ensure you are subscribed and have activated the bell, for the ultimate wisdom is not about possessing a secret, but about becoming a transmission point for a truth that wishes to be lived through you. The journey inward was only the preparation. The true purpose unfolds now as you turn to face the world again. You emerge from the underworld not as a conqueror, but as a changed element. The person who descended is not the one who returns. You are no longer a seeker of meaning. You are a generator of it. The desperate question, "What is the meaning of life?" which once echoed in the hollow chambers of your heart, has fallen silent. It has not been answered, it has become obsolete. It has dissolved in the face of a reality that is self-evidently significant. One does not ask a star for the meaning of its light. The light itself is the meaning. In the same way, your integrated existence does not require external validation or philosophical justification. Your being has become its own purpose. This is not a state of placid perfection or perpetual bliss. Storms will still rage in the outer world. Pain and loss remain integral parts of the human condition, but your relationship to them has been fundamentally transfigured. You have developed what could be called psychic gravity. You now possess an unshakable center within yourself, a point of stillness around which the chaos of life can revolve without dislodging you. You are no longer a dry leaf blown about by the winds of fate, reacting to every external stimulus. You are the tree rooted deeply in the earth of your own being, and the winds only serve to prove the strength of your foundation. Your life, from this point forward, becomes a symbolic act. The distinction between the sacred and the profane dissolves. The way you conduct your business, the way you listen to another person's story, the way you prepare a meal, every action becomes a ritual, an expression of your total, integrated self. There is no longer a split between the mask you wear for the world and the truth you hold in private. Your presence becomes a unified field of intention. Your life is no longer a scattered collection of days, but a singular, unfolding work of art, and you are both the artist and the marble. The great project is to live your personal myth so completely that your biography becomes indistinguishable from your soul's intent. But this profound inner realignment does not remain a private affair. The most startling effect of achieving psychic wholeness is how it reorganizes your external reality. You begin to emit a clear, steady frequency of authenticity. This creates a powerful field of resonance around you, a phenomenon we can call the mirror effect. The world cannot help but react to this new quality of being. To those who are living deeply within their persona, invested in artifice, manipulation, and self-deception, your mere presence will become an unbearable irritant. You will not need to speak a word of judgment or expose a single lie. Your simple, undivided integrity acts as a flawless mirror. In your presence, they are forced into a silent confrontation with their own fragmentation, their own disowned shadow, the very emptiness they have built their lives to avoid. They will feel an inexplicable animosity toward you. They may call you arrogant, strange, or intimidating. This is not a personal attack. It is the panicked reaction of their ego as it glimpses the authentic soul they have betrayed within themselves. They will naturally and inevitably recede from your life, like shadows fleeing the dawn. Conversely, those who are on their own path of becoming, those who possess a nascent yearning for truth, will be drawn to you. They will not see you as a master with answers, for you have none to give. They will see you as a source of permission. Your unapologetic reality grants them the courage to embrace their own. Your presence demonstrates that it is possible to survive the descent, that wholeness is not a fantasy, and that the most terrifying aspects of the self can be integrated. You become a catalyst, not by teaching, but by being. You are the living proof that validates their own deepest, most secret intuitions about what a human life can be. This is the manner in which the world is truly changed, not through loud ideologies or forceful conversion, but through the silent, magnetic influence of individuated consciousness. One by one, beacons of reality are lit in the darkness, and their resonance calls to others, creating a network of light that holds the encroaching shadows of the collective at bay. And this reveals the ultimate, cosmic purpose of your harrowing, personal journey. The entire ordeal, the suffering, the confrontation, the alchemical fire, was never just about you. It was not a project of self-improvement for the sake of personal peace. It was your response to a sacred obligation. Carl Jung perceived that the human psyche holds a unique and awesome position in the known universe. We are the slender membrane between an infinite unconscious cosmos and the possibility of its self-awareness. The universe of galaxies, stars, and nebulae is a breathtaking spectacle of being, but without a conscious observer, it is a spectacle that happens in the dark, devoid of knowing. It is a vast, unlit cathedral. The human soul, through its capacity for consciousness, is the single candle with the potential to illuminate that sacred space. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, Jung wrote, but by making the darkness conscious. The meaning of your life in the grandest sense is your contribution to this cosmic project. Every piece of your own personal darkness that you face and integrate, every projection you withdraw, every complex you transform from a master into a servant, adds a quantum of light to the total consciousness of the world. To shirk this task, to remain asleep and unconscious, is not merely a personal failure. It is to abdicate your most fundamental human duty. Your personal myth, the unique story that only you can live, is your specific, irreplaceable part of this great work. The meaning of life is not a universal formula to be discovered, but a unique potential to be realized within each individual. Your purpose is to become so completely yourself that you become a clear channel through which a particular facet of the universe can finally see and know itself. Therefore, the journey concludes not with an answer, but with a commission. You are not meant to find the meaning of life. You are meant to build it, to embody it, to become a living testament to it. The goal was never to understand the symphony, but to finally pick up your instrument and play your part. Your life is the universe's desperate and beautiful attempt to wake itself up, and your final task is simply this: to let it.